Hi there, hope you're having a lovely day so far. Now, by now, if you haven't set your children down to have a conversation about COVID-19, they would be aware to some changes to their lives. I mean, this could be through the changes in their daily schedule by not going to daycare or preschool, kindergarten or primary school. You know, even as simple that they are housebound and not able to freely play outdoors in public areas like playgrounds or visit the library or see their friends. You know, whatever the case may be, if you haven't yet sat them down and had a one-on-one conversation with your kids, they would be aware that the world has changed, and even if it's their little world around them. So where do you start? And how do you talk to your kids about the coronavirus? Well, lucky for us today, we're joined by Val Priekulis to discuss this very topic. And Val is a psychologist at YouThrive at Robina in Queensland. Now, YouThrive is a unique service that actually provides 3 types of therapy services for children, being psychology, speech pathology, and occupational therapy for kids and young people. Thanks so much for joining us today, Val. How are you?
Good, thanks. How are you going?
Yeah, look, really, really good, and very, very grateful for your time. I know you're a busy lady and you're back to back with your appointments, so thanks for fitting us in. You know, what we adults have endured emotionally by listening to the news in the last couple of months is nothing short of being, I'll say the word epic. It really is, it is quite epic. So, and I guess to some degree, we're all a little drained by it at the moment. So it's no wonder that some parents may have chosen not to speak to their children about COVID-19 in trying to protect their little hearts and minds and their ears. And so, I mean, I'd love to understand from your perspective, you know, why do you think a lot of parents may have not chosen otherwise to not have that conversation yet?
Well, it's probably a few reasons. I think sometimes they think, oh, if we don't talk about it, then they won't worry about it. And but that's kind of not really the case. We want to try and find that balance of not avoiding it altogether, but not like grilling our kids on it too much. And I think sometimes also parents feel a bit nervous about maybe not knowing how to answer some of the questions.
Yes.
Which is completely understandable. But at the same time, it's actually very good role modeling to not have the answer to all questions, because that's normal to not have all the questions and all the answers to some of the questions, and that's okay.
Yeah. And can you tell us why you think parents should be having an age-appropriate conversation with their children with them at this time?
Yeah, I think it's important for them definitely to have age-appropriate conversations, to kind of check in to see how their kids are feeling about it, but also even to make sure that they're sharing in an age-appropriate way some of their thoughts and feelings too. So it kind of goes 2 ways then, I think is important, instead of just expecting the kids to talk about their thoughts and feelings. So I think it's important for parents to role model talking about their own thoughts and feelings in an age-appropriate way.
Yeah. Now, we published your article titled How to Talk to Your Kids About Coronavirus. Now, for someone who hasn't read the article yet, can you please give us an overview of what it's about and just tell us what inspired YouThrive to write it?
Yeah, I think it's just about getting information out there. And I think a lot of people have been really good at sharing information during times like this, which is fantastic. So the article basically talks about educating yourself and keeping it age appropriate, how to kind of remain somewhat calm so that you're not too anxious, but still talk about your normal feelings, like positive wise and, you know, maybe not as positive feelings, some of anxieties and stresses, because we're all human. We all have a variety of feelings. And about encouraging kids to talk about their feelings, that it's something that's really important to do, because otherwise, if we don't encourage our kids, they can internalize some of these worries and stresses, which then can manifest into bigger problems. And, you know, although it's important to answer questions somewhat positively and hope in a hopeful way, again, being real about all types of feelings, and that it's okay to have all types of feelings, because there are feelings and it's not right or wrong, it's how we feel, and just helping kind of process them. And we'll talk about some ways how to process them in fun ways with kids. And also encouraging kids to stay connected, so that, because we are social animals, we're not meant to be isolated for long periods. So being creative in how to stay connected, and about self-care and looking after yourself, because that's really important.
Yeah, so we'll have a link to the article in the introduction paragraph, but the 8 tips, as you've just mentioned, number 1 is to educate yourself. Number 2, keep explanation, age appropriate. Number 3 is to remain calm. Number 4, encourage kids to talk about their feelings. 5, answer questions and be positive. Number 6, reassure kids and leave them with a feeling of security and hope. 7 is encourage children to stay connected. And number 8 is look after you. So we'll definitely have a link through to that article. And thank you for sharing that information with us, which is very, very helpful. I'd love to know, in your opinion, is it important for children to talk about their feelings about COVID-19? If so, how can parents encourage them to express their feelings?
Yeah, so it definitely is important to talk to our kids about thoughts and feelings, and in a balanced way. Obviously, we don't want to be constantly asking them, because that might make kids a bit worried about why we're asking so much, but we don't want to avoid it all together, because then, like we said, they can kind of get more anxious because of the unknown. And I think the most important thing is, because as parents, sometimes we try and fix things too quickly for our kids. And I think the most important thing is, when we're talking about thoughts and feelings, is really emotionally validating what they're saying and what they're feeling, instead of just saying, oh, you don't need to worry, it's okay, it's gonna, not jumping straight to reassuring, but, emotionally validating the children and saying, that makes sense. I feel stressed sometimes about it too. I'm really glad that you feel comfortable to talk about these feelings to me. And that also normalizes them, as well as emotionally validates them. And also, I think it's important that parents continue to share about their thoughts and feelings, instead of just making it about the kids all the time, because it's important that they role model about talking about their own thoughts and feelings as well.
Mm-hmm. So just to clarify, so validating your children's feelings is showing empathy to the way that they see and feel things. Is that right?
Yeah, so basically, emotional validation is a very, very important skill to practice with our kids. And it can be hard as a parent, because we love our kids so, so much, that sometimes we want to jump straight to problem solving or reassuring and telling them it's going to be okay. But then they don't always really feel heard, or it doesn't give them a chance to really process those feelings. So that's why that emotional validation and, empathizing and validating the emotions that they're having, so that they feel more heard and understood.
Mm-hmm. And that gives them, I guess, a chance, or would it, you're the expert, so I'm asking you the question. I'm just thinking aloud at the moment. But they are internalizing their feelings, but it actually sort of giving them a sense of self-regulating, so they understand how and why they're feeling. Is that right? As opposed to just feeling things and understanding why they're anxious, or why they're angry, or why they're frustrated. This gives them the opportunity to actually think and feel and go, okay, I've internalized it. This is why I'm feeling this. And as a parent, you're validating that from a place of empathy. Is that right?
Yeah, because we really do, because it's hard, because as a parent, sometimes we just like, oh, you don't need to worry, it's okay, there's not, nothing too much to worry about, because we want to protect our kids from feeling certain feelings. But it's important for them to get practice, talking about those feelings, sitting with them a little bit, and then us validating them, and sometimes problem solving as well, obviously. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's important to use that empathy with them too.
And it is a really hard conversation to have, and just like us, kids need time to process big, heavy discussions and conversations. So yeah. From that perspective, following, I guess, the conversation that you have with your kids, how often after it should parents check back in with their kids to see what other thoughts and feelings have sort of risen to the surface?
So I usually try, and it will vary from person to person, from child to child. But generally, I try and get parents to be very mindful of the child's nonverbal body language. So if you notice that they're looking a bit more stressed or a bit more confused or a bit more anxious, then check in about those feelings, saying, even just inquiring in an open question type way, like, you seem like you're worried about something or a bit anxious at the moment, sweetheart. Is everything okay, or are you feeling like that at all? And sometimes they'll be grateful that you're noticing that how they're feeling, but other times they might not. It might not be anything related to what's going on. Or if you notice that they're acting out behaviorally more, because that's another sign that a child is emotionally dysregulated or something's going on for them, is that they're behaviorally acting out more or negative attention seeking more. And so you then would probably be mindful of, maybe not right in that moment when they're negative attention seeking, but shortly thereafter, maybe do some sort of activity together so that it's more relaxed way of talking to them while you're doing something together.
Good point. And I guess, like, we all know that kids love asking questions, millions of questions. And I guess it does give us a little bit, us adults, insight into their perception of the world and how they see it through their own lens. So what types of questions should parents be concerned with their children asking? And how can the types of questions that the kids are asking give parents insight into the way that they're viewing and feeling things at the moment?
Well, I'd say a few things to maybe be mindful of is depending on your child's energy level or age or interest, try and do something that's appropriate in those ways. So for instance, because even therapy-wise, when we're talking to kids, we don't do like the way you do adult therapy, like just sitting down and looking at them and talking to them face to face. We usually do an activity together, or we do a mindfulness drawing or coloring in activity as we kind of ask some of these questions, or while we're maybe baking something nice together and have a bit of a chat about some questions then, or building something like Lego together. And because it's easier for kids to have conversations if they're not feeling so confronted by that face-to-face conversation. And also, I think it's important to be mindful of, you could even make up some activities like draw the coronavirus, and let's both draw it together, and then ask them to describe what they're drawing and why they chose the colors that they chose. And if you could say anything to the coronavirus that you've drawn, what would you say? And is there anything mom and dad could do to make you feel a bit happier or safer with everything going on with the coronavirus at the moment? So really just inquiring some of those questions while you're maybe drawing some of that stuff about the coronavirus or what they're thinking and feeling.
I asked my niece a couple of weeks ago how and what she thought about everything that was going on, as she had sort of called me through her iCloud account, which is very nice. This is one of the first things that she's had access to, and in general, and just very lighthearted. I just wanted to see and check in with her without having a conversation. I'm not her parent, obviously. I'm her auntie, and I asked, and said, how are you feeling about everything? And her whole perception was that the world is a very a dirty place with regards to germs, and it's very unhygienic and all of these types of things, which is really interesting as to that's how she views everything. Have you had any conversations with your kids about this, and like, what's their perception of everything at the moment?
Yeah, I've definitely had a chat with my kids. I've checked in here and there, usually while I'm doing some sort of activity with them or making some sort of activity fun by adding questions. But I think also they kind of look at more of the changes of their everyday life is most of their questions, and when is it going to go back to normal is the way I guess kids look at it. But there, and I think it's good for them to ask that stuff, because then you can also further inquire about it, and because they'll be saying, I'm sad because I miss my friends. And so emotionally validating, yeah, I can understand that you'd miss your friends. I miss my friends too. It's really hard. You're doing a great job with all the rules in place, trying to to keep as happy as possible, but it's okay to feel sad sometimes. Even mommy feels sad sometimes, missing her friends. And then further inquiring, because it's important to kind of maybe further inquire to see what else is happening for them. Is there other things that you miss since the coronavirus home isolation's been happening? And then they'll start, talking a little bit more, which is then them processing some of those deeper emotions for themselves instead of avoiding them or, trying to get into a iPad screen and avoid thinking about or talking about those feelings. And so it's really important to kind of continue to encourage them to talk more about those feelings and in as fun way as possible. And so even while we could play Barbies together and be like, what do you think Barbie thinks of this whole coronavirus home isolation? And make it a bit fun for them that way as well.
Yeah. And what tips do you have to offer parents to help them remain calm and positive when talking to their kids about COVID-19?
Yeah, so remaining calm and positive is definitely important because we want to role model that to our kids, that emotional regulation. Again, I think finding fun ways to have those conversations make it easier for us parents as well, which is helpful. So some of the things sometimes in therapy that we do that you could even do at home is, do you remember ever playing with chatterboxes when you were little?
No.
No, the ones where you have, actually I've got one right here. You've got like these things and then you go like
right,
that.
Sorry, yes, yeah.
And so you can put questions inside here about coronavirus things like, what are 2 worries you have about the coronavirus? Or what are 2 things that you miss doing since the coronavirus has been about, we've had to stay home? Or what are 2 things you like about being home? Or who in your family likes being home the best, do you think, and why? Or who are 2 people that make you feel safe since all this has been happening? And just so positive questions as well as other emotion questions, like about worries, but also about things to look forward to when we are out of home isolation as well, I think is important, because then that gives them some hope of things to look forward to as well.
In saying that, because we are in like a little bit of a tunnel at the moment, we don't know where there's going to be light at the end of it and how long we're going to be in this scenario for. What tips do you have, I guess, for parents and for children to be able to help us in the situation that we just don't know how long we're going to be in this scenario for, how long we're going to be, needing to self-isolate and not see our friends and have any form of what normality is?
So how to stay connected more so?
Yeah, I mean, should parents encourage kids to stay socially connected, but also how can you help with just a positive mind frame throughout this time period? Because we just don't know where the end is at the moment.
Yeah, and that's right. And I think it's about being honest with our kids, which is important in an age-appropriate way. And yes, definitely keeping our kids connected the best we can, because it is important, because again, we are social animals as humans, and so we're not meant to be in isolation for a long time. And luckily with technology, we've got lots of ways that we can do that with, FaceTime and Skype or the House Party app. And so with technology, and depending on the age of your kids, that we can find different ways to do that. And with the younger ones, we might have to scaffold the process a little bit, which is fine. So maybe make it like less people or shorter amounts of time. But even other things you could do is write a letter to your friend or a family member, or draw a picture and send it to them, either via email or by the post you could do. Or else another fun way to do some of the things we do with my family is we start coloring in a picture and then we send it to like grandma and grandpa, and then they send it back to us partially colored and more, and we keep sending it back and forth until
that's really lovely.
It is. It's so fun. Or even just making like a collage of pictures, which we talk about in therapy a lot, green thoughts, which are happy or calm or just more helpful thoughts. And so like having nice pictures of like grandma and grandpa or friends and making a collage specific to one particular person, because you could do it during like the art time of what's supposed to be happening during art homeschooling. Maybe you could do a collage and then and send it to somebody in the mail of those beautiful green thought memories of when you guys were out and about having fun together, and send it to a friend or family member, because those are really fun ways to keep people connected as well. And it's very thoughtful thing to do as well.
They're really great tips how we can stay socially connected. So thanks for that. And you've given us some really wonderful, insightful, helpful information throughout the chat today. If you were to summarize your key points for any parent listening, what would they be?
I'd say to, talk to your kids about their thoughts and feelings in a fun way, like some of those ideas that I've given you, or to also make sure that you're talking about your own thoughts and feelings as well in an age-appropriate way, and to try and stay connected ourselves as parents with other people, but even help our kids stay connected as well in those different creative ways to be able to help us all through this kind of different times that we're going through at the moment.
Thanks, Val. And look, if any parents have got any questions and they want to reach out to you after this chat today, whereabouts can they find you?
So I'm at YouThrive in Robina, and our website is youthrive.com.au.
Thank you so much, Val. Take care, and we look forward to having another chat in the not too distant future. Take care.
Thanks so much for having me.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.